Dr. Laura H. Kahn is a physician and a research scholar at Princeton University, USA. In 2006, she published Confronting Zoonosis, Linking Human and Veterinary Medicine in the CDC's Journal of Emerging Infectious Diseases. That publication actually helped launch the One Health initiative, which seeks to improve the health of all species. She has been a keynote speaker at One Health conferences worldwide ever since. She has so many publications, including a book on One Health and the Politics of AMR, which was published in 2016. She is also the recipient of various prestigious awards and honors, such as Presidential Award for Meritorious Service and KF Mayor James H. Steele Cole Headcane Award. I welcome you, Dr. Kahn, to this event. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Dr. Kahn. Dr. Kahn, we are extremely glad to have you on the panel. You have been working in the field of public health for years. Is there any particular experience or moment that made you interested in the concept of One Health?
Yes, thank you for that question. Two events inspired me or made me aware of this issue of One Health. The first was the 1999 West Nile virus outbreak in New York City, where you had two outbreaks going on, one in wild animals, primarily birds, crows, and subsequently the one in humans. And nobody put the two outbreaks together or linked them until the virus spread to the Bronx Zoo, where the chief veterinary pathologist, Dr. Tracy McNamara, was concerned that they might be linked by a novel virus in North America. And nobody was interested in talking with her because she was a veterinarian. Well, her concerns were eventually confirmed, and West Nile virus then spread across the country. The second event was the Anthrax Attacks of 2001, and in reading the veterinary medical literature, it struck me that the majority of emerging diseases and the majority of bioterrorist agents were zoonotic, meaning disease of animals that infect people, and yet I found that veterinarians and physicians rarely have ever talked to each other, much less the departments of health and agriculture. And so that's what prompted me to write the article in the CDC journal, Emerging Infectious Diseases, in 2006.
Thank you, Dr. Kahn. You published a book on One Health and the Politics of Antimicrobial Resistance. Could you elaborate about the motivation behind writing it?
Yes, the motivation was my colleagues and I at the One Health Initiative received an angry email from a veterinarian at Texas Tech University complaining about the bias in the medical literature and how they were always concluding that the cause of antimicrobial resistant bacteria were due to animals. I was surprised by that statement and decided to investigate it, and that took 5 years of investigation, looking through lots of different data and published reports. So that's how it got started.
Thank you, Dr. Kahn. Dr. Kahn, why do you think that One Health approach is the best way to fight AMR?
Oh, thank you for that question. Well, One Health, to reiterate, is the concept that human, animal, and environmental health are linked. And so we can use this concept then as a framework for examining interdisciplinary subjects such as antimicrobial resistance. Now, it's very clear that we're using antibiotics in humans and animals, and so the human and animal component of this issue is very clear. I think what's not as well appreciated is the environmental component, and that is huge. So for a long time, scientists thought that bacteria used antibiotics as a form of chemical warfare against each other in the soil. We generally don't know what goes on under the surface of the soil because many of the soil microbes cannot be grown in laboratory conditions. So to get around that problem, they came up with a very clever strategy called metagenomics, where they extract DNA directly from the soil to see what's there. So they can look at the genetic material, they just don't necessarily know from which microbes the genetic material came from. And when they did that, they found that resistance genes are everywhere. They're in the Arctic, they're in the Antarctic, they're in places that have never seen human anthropogenic exposure. Not only are they everywhere, but they appear to be ancient. And so the thought now is that bacteria don't use antibiotics as a form of chemical warfare, they use it as a form of communication with each other. And with our widespread use of antibiotics in humans and animals, we are just inundating the environment with these chemicals, changing the entire microbiome of the planet in ways that we don't understand. The other important issue from an environmental perspective is the issue of manure fecal matter. There's about 7.8 billion humans now on the planet, and there are over 30 billion food animals. Together, we make an estimated 4 trillion kilograms of fecal matter each year. I calculated on the back of an envelope that this would fill about 1.6 million Olympic-sized swimming pools each year of fecal matter. 80% of this fecal matter is produced by the animals. So where does this fecal matter go? Well, much of it is spread on agricultural fields where it's mixed with the soil, and it mixes with the soil microbes. So a very important paper published in 2018 in Nature Sustainability estimated the total amount of fecal matter that humans and animals produce. They also looked at which countries have the highest animal to human fecal ratio. And the countries with the highest animal to human fecal ratio were Australia and New Zealand, because they have more animals than people. So now, why is this important, you ask? Well, there was another paper published looking at total use of antibiotics in the different countries. Van Boekel published this, and I can share these two articles. But if you look at the two maps, the thing that really stands out is the countries with the highest use per capita of antibiotics are Australia and New Zealand. And that is very surprising, because why would they? But if you look at the map of animal to human fecal ratio, well, if their environments have very high fecal matter from animals, that might make the people sicker, and make them more inclined then to use antibiotics, then producing this vicious cycle of antibiotic use leading to more resistance. So we need more studies looking at this potential connection of animal manure in the environment and antibiotic use. We need to investigate that, because that would be a very important component of addressing antimicrobial resistance. Our sanitation systems, if they exist, only address human fecal waste, not animal fecal waste. So that's a huge issue that we need to investigate.
Thank you, Dr. Kahn.